some people don't feel this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I would say, rather than focusing on the people that know, oh, I got this stuff going on inside of me and I don't know what to do with it. Okay, here's an answer. Integrate it. This is how you do it. Mm-hmm. What about the people that don't? What about the people that are just so flighty? I would say that when you were talking in this last segment, when we were answering the question, that you said that people have to recognize these things. And if you don't stand up for what you believe in, then if you don't stand up, then what are you doing? You know what I mean? I would say that I lived a lot of my life like that. I didn't necessarily stand up. I did, but I did it quietly. I stood up for, I cannot be married to this person that I was married to, and I had to get out of that relationship. And I did not have any support, and I stepped out of that. And it was a struggle, as I went through a lot, but I did it because I believed that I didn't deserve to be in that relationship. And here I am today in an amazing relationship, doing this today with an amazing person. It was a good thing, but I didn't have anybody to help me. So what about the people that don't know? Because there's other aspects of my life that I didn't do that.
So the first thing that I would say is, let's do this little exercise right now, right? Just to show you, and there's a lot of different exercises like this, and you can find them online. So that way you can start seeing how it is that you view the world and how you have been socially conditioned and educationally conditioned to see life in a certain way, right?
It's a test for me.
It's just a little, it's not a test. It's
I'm
what
curious.
you thought, right? Yeah. So if I show you this picture, right? It has a monkey, a panda bear, and a banana, right? Which two pictures go together?
You said a monkey, a panda bear,
and a banana. Which out of those three pictures, which two go together?
I have to pick that. Obviously, I'm going to pick the monkey and the banana.
Okay,
but
why?
Because that's what we've been conditioned to see. And all the books that I've read, and all of the zoo animal books that I've read, on nature shows, on now recently on TikToks, I see pandas eating all kinds of stuff, including bananas. Okay. So I've been on TikTok.
So you will say the monkey and the banana.
I would say the monkey and the banana.
Okay. So
naturally,
right? Now that is a very Eastern way of thinking.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Oh.
There's people that will say the monkey and the panda go together. You know why?
Why?
Because in the West, we focus on categorizations. A monkey and a banana are animals. In the East, right? Because you have a relationship based. Yeah. A monkey eats a banana.
Okay.
So it's a relationship.
Right.
You know?
So I didn't pass or fail. It's just the way that we categorically, this is what we do.
Yes.
We categorize things and put them into compartments.
Exactly. So we either categorize and compartmentalize. Yeah. Or
see the relationship.
We see the relationship in things, right? So in your world, when you wrote,
explain the differences, because that I don't want anybody to walk away going, oh, well, she thinks Eastern philosophy and I think this way. No. Like, again, what does that mean?
What it means is not that it's good or bad. It's a starting point.
Okay.
It's a starting point for you to see how you view the world. Categorization is not bad. Both a monkey and a bear, they're both mammals. They're both animals, right? That is a way of us understanding the world. It is a fine way for us to understand in the world. But also, in addition to that categorization, there's also a relationship between the banana and the monkey, because there's a relationship. So when you look at a person, you know, we talked about our skin color, right? You're lighter, I'm darker. You know, we could look at the categorization of that and say, well, you're that, and that person is that.
We do that in the census.
And we do that. Yeah. And we do that to individuals. But we don't see past. We don't take the time to look at the relationship between the two people. Right. So, you know, we have to also shift our perspective. And if we look at the relationship, we should also look at the different categorizations, but see that there's also a relationship between the two. Right. You know, in your case, that's a point, because you as an individual saw something different. It's like, wow, there is a possibility that I could be happier in another scenario,
Right.
But the category that you were dealing with, that you had to be a good wife, you had to be a good daughter, you had to be you had to follow tradition,
Right.
and that categorization is something that gives you identity. It gives your life meaning, but the internal is telling you something else.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
There you go. There's that conflict.
Okay.
There's that duality, because even though
That's a good example then.
it is a great example.
Yeah, because that makes more sense. So it's
it is a great example. Yeah. So your soul is telling you, although you are following all these categories and you have an identity based on all these categories, it's
not the life I want to live.
That side of you that is being suppressed, that identity of being that individual, is being lost in this collective, right? So that energy inside of you of an individual, of wanting to have an identity on your own, or wanting to do that, was so suppressed that it needed to come out, right? And some people may say, oh, you got to do what you got to do, or why I just gotta. There's people that just
they fall in line,
suppress that, and deep down inside they become bitter, they become more resentful, and that is a way in which this manifests itself in a person's life, and we ignore it. And it happens all the time.
Right.
There's, the big thing right now is, why are people not wanting to go back to their jobs? Right?
I don't want to go back to my job.
No. But this is a serious thing to discussion. It's a very serious issue to discuss. And we always look at it primarily from the categorization of finances, our role in society, and you have to work in order to survive. And granted, that is, you have to be able to generate income in order to sustain your life. But there's that other aspect that is like, wait a minute, I'm not happy. It's like I'm giving my life for something, and it doesn't feel good. It should feel better. It's not fulfilling, and I'm just doing things day in and day out, but it has no vitality of experience. It has it doesn't give you any zest. So a lot of people there's people that suppress that. I just got to do what I got to do. And they become resentful, and they become sad, and they become horrible to work with, and frustrated and negative, and who's this new kid coming in? And that happens in real life. So there is an urge right now for more self-actualizing in the midst of maintaining the status quo of making money for purposes of for missions that don't really bring life forth.
So then that's a really good question to move into the last segment of our episode here, is to, if people are in that position, you just use the work example. How do we overcome? How is it that we can integrate this thought process, this what we're talking about in this episode, into our lives, so that we can live a fulfilling life? If you have to go to work, like if you have to go to work, you have to go. I mean, a lot of people have no choice; they have to go to work. And that's my dissertation. I'm writing that in my chapter right now about how people spend, 1/3 of their life at their jobs, and they're unfulfilled in a lot of ways. I'm not necessarily focusing on that, but I'm focusing on the aspect of having a toxic culture and things like that. That's my dissertation, right? But how is it then that the individual can understand their role in that and integrate these dualities and then live a meaningful and happy life if you have to go to work?
Yeah, well, That is a trick that each person has to kind of figure out, right? But my advice would be, number one, you have to understand the environment, right? Again, it's going back to observation and deduction. Follow the scientific method. It's simple. It's like okay, the path that has been set up for us, it's get an education, get a degree, work, find something that you enjoy. And a lot of people actually, it's not about enjoyment. It's finding something that makes money, and pursue that. And you'll make money, you'll get a house, you get a family, and you'll be happy, right? That's a prescribed path. The question that you need to ask yourself, just like we talked about the East and the West, two ways of looking at the world. And you could say, okay, that's a very good path, and it has been proven that you're more than likely, not 100%, which is the statistic situation, you're more than likely to achieve success in that way.
Yeah.
And that is true.
Right.
But you're only more than likely. It's not a guaranteed. So when you're looking at the situations and you look, okay, this is a really good possibility, right? Now you start looking and observing, well, if I follow this, is there a possibility that I may go in that situation and I won't like it? Yes. So how do you prepare yourself to be able to make a decision and switch and change if the situation doesn't pan out, right? You have to understand first, what is the lifestyle that I want to live? If I'm establishing myself, am I going to give myself 5-10 years to be able to work at this place, gain experience, gain knowledge, save up money, and then be able to have a foundational basis that if in 5-10 years down the line, this is not something that I want to do, can I pivot into something else? If the situation becomes toxic, am I putting myself in a situation in which I am financially capable of switching careers, switching jobs, negotiate that, look, this is not working, because although a place might become toxic and you may attempt to change it, you may not be able to. So what are you going to do? So a lot of this stuff it's recognition, really. But
I don't think that, just to play that devil's advocate, I don't think I think for a lot of people, that is a rational way to do things. They sort of plan their life. Okay, well, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. I'm going to do here. I'm going to do that. And some people do that. Yeah. I mean, I know people right now, Sierra is a perfect example. She really is methodical about how she thinks about what she's going to do and her actions. And Jake, our son, he thinks let me think this through, But there are some people who don't think things through. They just sort of just follow. This is what I'm supposed to do. This is what is out there. And I think what happens is what you said earlier, is that they get to that place where all of a sudden it's like, this shit ain't working for me. This is not working for me. I am not happy. Something's got to happen. And it's when that happens, something pivotal happens in their life, that they're like, oh man, this is not good. I'm not good here. And that's the recognition. So I think there's two aspects to that.
But it's like I told you, right? The idea of what we're doing this is to have people open up their minds to start thinking about possibilities. There's not just one way to look at the world. There's several ways to look at it. And there is an interconnectedness with all.
So to open your mind
to open up your mind. Once you do that, then you can start thinking about ideas that is like, oh, this may happen, so I could do this.
Right.
This may happen, so I could do that.
That makes sense.
So the idea of a soul, this is one of the things that I want to drive, because this is kind of like the premise of what we're doing, is that you have to understand your emotions, what they're saying to you, that inner workings of intuition. That is an aspect of your duality.
You can't ignore that
you have to listen to.
Right.
The other aspect is our logical thinking side. We have to understand both, and we have to merge both so that we can make a better assumption.
So I look at it like your head and your heart. You have to merge those things.
The perfect example of this is in the book, I'm Okay, You're Okay, right? There's the adult, right? That's the person. That's the entity in your mind that makes the choices. There's the child that, to me, is the intuitive, impulse of that we have. It's our soul. It's like that thing that pushes. And then you have your parent, which is the thinking, critical thinking, warnings. I mean, the child and the parent have a lot of negatives because there's trauma involved in that. So you have to rectify that. But the idea is not to say one is better than the other.
They complement each other.
Exactly. The parent's job, and the analogy that I could use is a car, right? You have two opposing forces. You have the gas and you have the brake, right? And you can't use them both at the same time. If not, you're just going to spin your wheels and burn your tires, right? But if you want to go in a certain direction, you have to be able to apply both, right? You have to be able to apply both.
Right. So
the opposites, it's like that analogy. You have to be able to apply both to get somewhere. No, so if you refuse and you can constantly suppress those things until the moment that shit hits you, it's like you haven't really thought about. No, now, granted, it has happened to me. It's happened to me. I thought I had things figured out. I was like, okay, and shit just hit me. Boom.
Yeah.
I wasn't ready for it.
Yeah.
And there's been situations in which I have prepared myself and I have thought about consequences and moving this direction and moving that direction and took action and did the best thinking process that I could. And I planned it, action planned it, vetted it, and it still didn't work out the way that I wanted to. Those are situations that do happen. And that is the part of life that we have to be able to accept. But the moment that you begin to be afraid of not challenging those two, not accepting, not merging those 2 points, and then not taking action, the moment you start doing that, then you're going to take a step back and you're going to keep suppressing. Suppressing.
And that isn't then, for all intents and purposes, the quest.
No, it's not. The quest. That's the thing. It's like we don't know what we're going to find out.
Well, and that's the other part of it, is that unless you're willing to, and this is a great way to end this episode. I think I'm saying that about myself, but I mean it, both of us. I don't mean just me. I think with what you're saying and with what I'm going to say now, it's a great way to end it, because I think that unless you're willing to stop and recognize that we have these opposing forces and understand the relationship between the two of them and not separate these things, we're never going to be able to fully live a life that we deserve to live. And that's how I live.